Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the tragic heart of F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece, The Great Gatsby. We're going to explore the brutal social forces that really, drive its characters to their doom.
So, the novel opens with this strange, almost clownish poem. And it's the perfect place to start, Because it immediately throws us into a world where love isn't just a feeling. No, it's a performance. It's something you have to win with a big, flashy, gold-hatted display.
And this right here, this is the central tragedy of Jay Gatsby, isn't it? I mean, here's a man who builds an entire empire for one single purpose, only to find out that the game he's playing has all these unwritten rules. And worse, it's been rigged against him from the very start.
All right, so let's start by looking closer at Gatsby's grand quest, because at its heart, this is a story all about appearances and the absolutely absurd, over-the-top performance of wealth.
You see, Gatsby is the literal embodiment of that poem. He is our gold-hatted, high-bouncing lover. His entire life, I'm talking everything from his ridiculous mansion to his hydroplane, it all becomes this lavish, almost theatrical display, and it's all designed for one thing, to capture the attention of one person, just across the bay. And you have to notice how Fitzgerald actually describes this whole display. Nick, our narrator, says Gatsby's parties feel like an amusement park. Tom Buchanan calls Gatsby's car a circus wagon. See, this absurdity isn't just for show. It's Fitzgerald aiming a sharp, pointed satire at 1920s America, a society that genuinely believed this kind of, material deception was the only real way to get ahead.
Okay, but to really understand why Gatsby ultimately fails, we have to dig into the unwritten rules of the game. We need to see that invisible social ladder he was so desperately trying to climb.
So, back in the Jazz Age, it wasn't just about how much money you had. Oh no, it was all about where your money came from. You had East Egg, which was home to the old money crowd. We're talking inherited wealth, established families who didn't have to show off. And then you had West Egg, where Gatsby lived. That was new money, the self-made folks, super flashy and, constantly trying to prove they belonged.
So Fitzgerald basically breaks this society down into three distinct groups. And what's crazy is that each one is totally trapped by their economic reality. You've got the inherited elite, Tom and Daisy Buchanan. Then you have the self-made dreamers, like Gatsby. And at the bottom, the working poor, like George and Myrtle Wilson, who just get completely ground down by the system. And Gatsby, man, he desperately tries to fake it. But his attempts to fit in, that flashy pink suit, the fact that he calls everyone old sport, it doesn't make him seem like he belongs. It does the exact opposite. It basically screams new money and just highlights him as an outsider in a club that, let's be real, was never, ever going to accept him. Now, right at the center of this whole class struggle is Daisy Buchanan. And in this world, she's framed less as an actual person and more as, the ultimate prize to be won.
This is genuinely one of the most devastating lines in all of American literature. And it's not just her being cynical. This is Daisy revealing her complete, painful awareness of her role in society. She understands that in her world, for a woman, being smart just leads to suffering. So what's the best thing she can be? A beautiful little fool, blissfully ignorant.
So Daisy is basically living in what you could call a gilded cage. Yeah, her voice is famously full of money, but here's the thing. That money and all the power that comes with it, it doesn't belong to her. It belongs to her husband, Tom. So her wealth gives her all this comfort, sure, but it completely strips her of any real autonomy, trapping her in a state of total economic dependence.
And when you look closely, you can see how women in this novel were controlled by this whole system of pressures. I mean, they were confined by rigid social norms, they were limited by their economic reliance on men, and maybe worst of all, they were psychologically worn down because their voices and their opinions were just constantly dismissed.
So, when you strip away all the beautiful parties and you look past the tragic romance, what are you left with? Well, the novel reveals itself as what one critic called an acidic satire of American society, and honestly, that's the perfect description.
I mean, listen to Tom's line here. It just drips with the condescension of the old money elite, right? He doesn't even see Gatsby as a real romantic rival. To him, Gatsby's just an unworthy imposter, a Mr. Nobody from nowhere who has absolutely no right to even be in the same room.
And this right here, this points to the novel's most brutal critique. It's exposing a society where morality is just completely corrupted by wealth. The rich, people like Tom and Daisy, they're totally insulated from the consequences of their actions. They can cause all this chaos, all this destruction, and then what do? They just retreat back into their money and leave other people to pay the ultimate price.
And all of this, all of these ideas, they all come together in the novel's most iconic and honestly most powerful symbol, that single green light burning at the end of Daisy's dock.
You have to understand, for Gatsby, that little green light was everything. It was proof to him that his dream was real, that it was tangible, and that it was just right there, within reach. Think about it. He bought his entire mansion just so he could see it. It was this constant burning reminder of the future he was fighting so hard for. So that light, it really symbolizes three deeply connected ideas. Okay, so first, on one level, it's hope, right? It's Gatsby's obsessive belief that he can somehow recapture the past. Then, on another level, it's wealth. It's the money that he thinks will finally make him worthy of Daisy. But ultimately, what it really represents is the American dream itself, that huge promise of a future that's always calling to you, but somehow always moving away just as you get close.
And this really is the novel's final, devastating argument, that the American dream is a hollow promise. I mean, just look at the evidence. The characters from lower-class backgrounds, Gatsby, Myrtle, Wilson, every single one of them ends up dead. But the born rich, they survive. It suggests that maybe the dream's most important quality is that you can't actually reach it.
So in the end, The Great Gatsby is so much more than just a critique of wealth. As one writer put it, it's a timeless tragedy about the impossible longing to reinvent yourself. And that's what makes it stick with us. It's about that painful, universal truth that no matter how fast we run, we are all, in the end, just boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.